So, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. Today I have a very special guest, good friend of mine, Ernest Eich of Shandoka Electric Motorcycles. I had to check my notes on that one. So, Ernest, what you're doing is actually hugely important because we are talking about transportation equity. You are helping people convert petroleum burning motorcycles into electric. Please tell us how you're doing and how this is awesome.
That's great. Thanks for the setup there, Wendy, and for having us here on your show. What I've done with Shandoka is try to develop a concept that I had. It started really about 10 years ago for this particular idea, but I've been in the clean fuels and sustainability space for about 20 years, so it was a really natural fit for me. But I've invented and got global patents in place for this adapter that you see that lets me take existing motorcycles, remove the old bang machine that sits between your feet. The electric batteries go in place instead of a motor, instead of the gasoline burning part. And that lets us take motorcycles that are already out there on the road and bring them up so that they're future ready and do it in a way that's affordable, that people can actually get a hold of these vehicles instead of just having it on their dream board forever.
Ah, that is very cool. What are tell people like how it's because it's not something you can do at home. This is not where someone orders it from you, buys it, and shoves it on their bike. So explain to people that this is not to do yourself.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things that you can do yourself on a motorcycle, and that's part of the reason why old motorcycles are popular for people just learning to ride. But it's also part of the reason why people stop wanting to ride motorcycles, is all the work and the maintenance that goes into it. So with some things you can do, but with ultra high voltage and delicate electronic parts, it's not the best combination for the at-home garage mechanic. So the concept is that our systems will be available through trained and authorized dealerships, whether it's an independent motorcycle shop or a custom builder that knows enough to come through, take our classes, and get certified. So then we'll train people how to go out and find the right types of motorcycles in the community around them. You can buy them for really cheap because you don't need it to actually operate. All right. You're getting rid of that engine. You're getting rid of the headache. So people can then, as an independent businessman or independent businesswoman, go out in their community, find these motorcycles, apply our kits to them to upcycle and remanufacture basically this motorcycle into a future ready machine. And then on top of that, the design is in such a way that we can replicate it and build it. You don't need to be an extremely skilled welder to put this together from our kit. So it fits into not just the United States or Europe, where you have a lot of disposable income, but it also fits into markets like India and Korea and Vietnam, where most of the motorcycles on the planet are, and where people rely on their motorcycle for their day-to-day transportation.
Oh, yeah.
So if we really want to make an impact onto the emissions of the planet, we should be looking at the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest stuff to fix. And the easiest stuff to fix is also the dirtiest stuff right now. And motorcycles are by far the dirtiest engine that's on the road, other than people that are cheating with their emission systems. A lot of the reason for that is it's a small motor. So a small engine is harder to control the emissions on, and emissions equipment removes some of the power that's available from that gas engine. So the other thing that happens is emission controls get bypassed by that home mechanic so they can get a little more power out of the engine, right? Or as the gasoline combustion part of that motorcycle ages, it runs worse and worse and worse. And you just try to keep it going. And that's what tends to happen in developing countries is they get our used motorcycles dumped on them and they try to keep them going and keep them operational, but there's no pollution controls in their country. So there's no inspection to make sure it runs clean or that it's run the right way. And so this is where we see the biggest potential for affecting climate change is going into countries and offering them an opportunity to have a more reliable piece of transportation that they can charge from solar power on their roof. So even if they don't have electric supply, the voltage is low enough that in a developing country, a 90 volt on your roof solar powered system can run direct charge into the batteries of your motorcycle or your moped. So what we mean by transportation equity is we're developing systems for motorcycles that everyone can afford. So yes, of course, we can build you a $35,000 unbelievably powerful electric motorcycle that will wow your friends and make all your gas buddies jealous and wish that they had gotten one first. But we can also build a very affordable electric motorcycle that takes advantage of existing bikes on the road and even allows you to upcycle the batteries that are coming out of existing electric vehicles.
Oh, wow.
So when a battery comes out of an electric vehicle, particularly like a Nissan Leaf is the most popular electric car on the planet. Their battery cells, when they're depleted for pushing that car around, you could still use them for lighter weight vehicles. So you could take 1/3 of the battery out of a Nissan Leaf and put it on an old motorcycle and still have more than enough electric power available in those charge cycles for someone in India to get to work for the next 10 years.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, so batteries can take a step down approach, and that helps maintain the battery in its manufactured form before you recycle it. So that's kind of that whole, when we talk about circular economies and the ability to guide the waste stream or the leftovers of one use into direct use into another form, that's the highest ability to maintain low carbon footprints. So by taking those batteries and using secondary use batteries, I can develop this electric motorcycle perfectly capable for someone to use in India for something that is only about 20% more than their gas motorcycle costs them. So that's solutions based. And that's what we're trying to do with Shandoka.
That's amazing. I mean, one of the things that most people don't think about outside of, the world outside of the United States, a lot of people don't really think about that. And the fact that you're really focusing on third world countries, developing countries. I mean, thinking about Southeast Asia. I've been to Thailand and everyone gets around on a motorcycle or a moped or a tuk-tuk, which is just basically a motorcycle with a cabin in the back.
Yep.
It's a very preferred form of transportation.
Yeah,
and
very true.
That's a lot of petroleum being used.
Yes, it is. And sometimes being used in very dirty ways.
Yes. So, yes, I saw that.
The nice thing about an electric motorcycle and battery system is that as that ages, it's still zero emission, right? Yeah. There's no emissions in a tailpipe if you don't have a tailpipe.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to coin a little bit of a new phrase, and maybe you can help me out too, because there's a lot of discussion around vehicles that are electric. As are they zero emission? Because somewhere there's pollution making electricity.
Yep.
So unless you're charging with pure renewable solar or micro hydro or wind power, there's a little bit of dirt that's in your electricity. So what I'm trying to think about them is more of a net zero vehicle than a zero emission, because those are our goals planetary wise too, is to get to a net zero carbon emission status. Yeah. So our motorcycles are probably the closest to a net zero vehicle as you can get, because, looking behind me, the frame, the suspension, the forks, the wheels, the seat, all of those have already been manufactured. In fact, the motorcycle behind me was manufactured in 1982. So it's almost 40 years old, and all of that manufacturing energy occurred already.
Yeah.
So why replace all of that frame with a new frame and a new suspension when this is just fine?
Yeah.
So that's where, I guarantee you, when we sit down and do a full analysis, Shandoka's motorcycles would be the cleanest footprint of any way that you can move yourself or a couple hundred pounds of friend or equipment with you. So.
Yeah, some of us are a couple hundred pounds there, so that does happen.
If you get me before the barbecue cookout or after the barbecue cookout,
and yeah, you're in the Southeast, so you have good barbecue. You have real barbecue.
We've got great access. Yep.
Yeah. So how can people find you? What's the best way for people to find you? I'll obviously put all the links in the write-up, but
yeah, I'll tell you the place that people find us and get to know most about us is actually on Instagram. So on Instagram, we're at Shandoka Cycles. And it's great because you can really see what we're doing, and it's easy for us to post updates on how the progress of conversions are going, or development of the business, or manufacturing. And then our website is also ShandokaCycles.com. So you can find us at the website, learn how the conversions go, learn about some of our other plans for how to really make this roll out in a way that everybody can access it. And that's sort of the other trick with Shandoka, is we're trying to create non-ownership opportunities for electric transportation also. So think about your kick scooter companies that you can just grab a kick scooter and go down the street. Yeah. But instead you can have an electric moped during the day, an electric motorcycle on the weekend with your friends. So we're developing non-ownership opportunities. So you can join as a membership and ride these motorcycles, check them out on the weekend, or show up at the cookout or at the office party and just kind of have a good time. So.
I love it. And then you don't have to worry about all the maintenance and upkeep. And let's say you switch out styles. I have a friend who likes to collect motorcycles. Mm-hmm. He's out of control.
Yeah.
He's buying them. But it becomes a love, where people just love their cycles, and they just, they find new styles, So I like that sharing idea. The non-ownership idea really would work out well for people to try new things. And I love it.
It's a great way.
Yeah. And the reducing of, the reducing of that carbon footprint, repurposing of the batteries. I mean, that's a huge fallacy for all of us, is we're not properly recycling our batteries or properly reusing them. You've solved the problem.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big issue with electric vehicles also. There's a number of companies that are on the forefront of how to recover the good materials out of electric vehicle batteries. And the companies that are doing the best right now are at a 93 to 95% recovery rate. Oh, wow. So one of the things to think about in that transition over to electric vehicles is that with oil and petroleum, you dig it up, you burn it to get somewhere, and it's gone forever. But with lithium, it's a mineral that doesn't degrade or disappear in the course of charging and discharging. It just changes form. So the lithium is all still there at the end of a battery's life. What's happened is, inside the battery, every time you charge and discharge that battery, the lithium itself slowly develops crystals within that battery, and they reach towards each other from the separate plates. So you'll have a crystal that'll reach out. And when those crystals get too close to each other, then there's not enough resistance for the battery to work properly, and the current flows too fast in that part, and you have a bad battery cell. So when that happens, you take that battery cell and you take it apart and you recover all the lithium out of it. You reprocess it so all the crystals come back out and you get a clean material, and then you put it back into a new battery. So part of the promise of the lithium battery chemistry is that we're not going to run out of lithium the way that we're going to run out of oil that we can recover in a manner that we're willing to do. Right?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
I talk a lot about the lithium. We don't have a lot of people argue with me that there's plenty of lithium out there. It's a mined material. It's a rare element. It's not abundant. So
it's abundant, but recovering it is not easy right now. Recovering, like getting it out of the ground, is getting more and more efficient and less intensive, and that's part of the process we have to go through as an industry, is recognizing, okay, yes, what we're doing is 1/10 as destructive as the petroleum version of what we're doing. Yeah. But there's still damage that we need to mitigate and be aware of, and look for processes that avoid it if we possibly can.
Exactly. So, exactly. Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Crazy thought.
Right. Who would have thought that? Yeah.
And who would have thought we would actually think about the next generation? How dare we?
Some of us are in that generation where we started thinking about it when we were little.
Yeah.
So I was already an environmental wacko when I was a kid. I was already about the environment. I was, I getting my Eagle Scout for me was a big move and a big part of my life as a mid teenager. And my project was around ecology and environmentalism. So I did some work with the local raptor center that rehabilitates birds of prey as part of my Eagle project.
Wow.
But I was very aware of environmental issues just growing up as well. You know, I could see the pollution when I went to the mountains and you see a vista. And because I liked old cars as a kid too, I was making that connection, right? I was realizing that, yeah, a 1955 Chevy Bel Air is really beautiful, but boy, does it belch into
Yes,
the air.
yes.
So this is sort of a way for me to know that going into the future, I can enjoy vehicles. I can enjoy classic cars. I can enjoy motorcycles and off-road trucks and all those kind of things without the guilt that comes in of the pollution and the oil refineries and the spills and the, you know, ruined watersheds that will never, ever be healthy again because of what the petroleum industry has done. Whereas I can now become a player in this marketplace and exert my influence to help other companies also look for that cleaner, better way of doing things that also brings justice across to people who may not be able to otherwise access that benefit. And that's the other side of Shandoka is equity and letting people know that, you know, if we can give people access to transportation, we can change their way of life also.
Yeah,
it's a big goal.
Again, it's not just the $40,000 bike. It's something available for everybody because, you know, my tagline, you know, no shaming, no blaming, every little bit helps. This is every little bit helps. We're getting massive amounts of people giving access to this transportation equity, and then we can vastly reduce the carbon footprint by doing that. Not just one or two expensive bikes, but millions.
Right. And to that end of giving credit where it's due, the companies that are building $80,000 electric motorcycles, they're doing a good benefit to the industry too, because they're pulling in enough money to do some extended research onto the edge of performance, onto the edge of efficiency, onto the edge of what really, you know, how far can we push electric technology? So to an extent, it's great to have those companies too, pushing the edge on, or, you know, a really good example, and I'll go ahead and call them out because they're doing great. They're called Curtis Motorcycles, and they were a motorcycle company of the same vintage of Harley Davidson and Indian. They made great bikes at the turn of the last century also, and they're moving into an electric dimension with their motorcycles. They have a beautiful and amazing electric motorcycle that I don't think I'll ever be able to afford, but they are pushing the limits of how the structure of a motorcycle can integrate with its motive power. And they're really pushing the limits of how you can get the most juice out of a battery. Those ideas are going to spill into what I produce. They're going to spill into a more efficient motor that's smaller, that fits into the pocket that you want it to fit in, so that you can have a very efficient electric motorcycle also. So like you said, no shame, no blame. I'm glad for the people that are pushing those limits at the top end of the development curve also.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I just love everything you're doing. And I'm just thinking about all the countries that would benefit. I mean, entire Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, then you've got India, even Europe. I mean, if you ever walk the streets of Italy, everyone's whizzing by in a moped.
And I traveled Central America a lot, and more on the fringes where everybody knew that there was going to be no electricity on Thursday, or most days between 3 and 5, right? Because there wasn't enough power to give everybody electricity, so they typically didn't have power out there on Thursdays. You know? But they just knew it. So those types of parts of the world have a very different view on what's important. And how do I get around? The first time that I saw a father and a mother on a motorcycle with a kid on each knee going down a dirt road, I was very impressed at what you can actually do with two wheels. And so, like you said, here in the United States or Europe, we think about motorcycles as that recreational outlet, as that escape, or wow, there goes a real rebel commuting on a motorcycle, you know, with your suit and tie just barely showing under your leathers, right? But in other parts of the world, a motorcycle is part of your dowry when you get married, right? You need a motorcycle to be successful. And so your married in-laws pool their funds to get you a motorcycle as part of your wedding gift.
Oh, wow.
Right? That there are so many things about motorcycles that we don't contemplate in the United States. And for me, they became important in how to build that successful impact onto emissions. So
I have learned so much in like this brief 20-minute conversation. I have learned so. I mean, lithium batteries and crystals, didn't know about the crystals, knew all about the lithiums, but that just shows where my knowledge stopped. Yeah. But this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope to God that we now see this everywhere, because this is a very important invention that you have and a new technology that you have. And I think it's world changing. Personally, I think it's world changing.
Thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate that. As an entrepreneur and any other entrepreneurs that are out there, we really appreciate that attaboy now and then, and hearing some actual pat on the back type of stuff, because it can be a long road and kind of lonely until the team starts to grow, which is happening now with Shandoka. So I'm looking forward to give you an update in a few months and show you how far we've gotten. And please, everybody, follow us on Instagram at Shandoka Cycles, or our website, shandokacycles.com. And we look forward to seeing you in a parking lot somewhere. Let's go have some fun.
Absolutely. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm so looking forward to this. And I'm looking forward to hearing your news in a couple months. That's awesome. All right.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you. And we will see you soon.